Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you 7 different ways to remove backgrounds from pictures using GIMP 2.10. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the web browser and we need to download this picture. I'm going to put a link to this image in the YouTube description. So I'm going to click free download. Let's just drag this to the side and we'll open up this folder on my desktop and we're going to drag this one picture in here. And I'm going to make a folder and I'm going to call it circle shape image. We can see there's a circle shape in here, so we just drag and drop that picture into there, right? We're going to create different folders for the different techniques that we use inside GIMP for different styles of images, because depending on the actual image you can use a different technique to remove the background. So let's go ahead and open up GIMP software and we will simply open up this folder on my desktop. Let's just get GIMP open. Let's make sure the folder's on the above layer here, and we'll open up this folder and drag and drop this picture into GIMP. So we've got the image in here. Okay, so the objective is to remove the background from this ball, and there's a couple of different ways to do this, but it would make sense that we use a selection tool which is a circular shape because we want to remove the background from the ball, right? So we can go up to this tool and it's called the ellipse tool. Right, so it's called the ellipse tool. But before we use that tool, it will make sense that we try and draw some guides to center out to find the center position of the ball. So what we can do is hold down the control key and zoom right into this ball, and you can hold down the middle mouse button to just drag it and try and get as close as possible to the ball. And then on the ruler up here, you see there's a ruler down the side here and across the top here. You should be able to go to view and then click show guides, and we want to also make sure that the let's see, where's the ruler going in here? Show rulers here as well. Make sure those two options are available, right? Show ruler and show guides here. So when we click on the ruler, we can drag down and we can try and find roughly the center point of the ball. So that's roughly looks like the center point here, and then we drag from this side to the middle point here, and we've got roughly a center point for the ball, right? This just helps us to isolate the center point. And we've got the ellipse tool selected here. So just hold down the left mouse button, make sure you select ellipse select or press the letter E, and then we'll move our mouse cursor to the center point here, and we're going to hold down the left mouse button and start to drag out. Then hold down the control key and hold down the shift key as well on your keyboard, and now you can drag out a circle. This circle might not be perfect, right? But we're going to adjust it slightly. So try and get it so that it's roughly the same shape as the ball, and then let go of the mouse button and the control key and the shift key. Now we can drag these handles in the top here and we can drag it out so that we can get more of a better selection for the balls. We can drag it down here a little bit, something like this, right? And we'll get it as accurate as possible, let's say around here, and we want to drag this one in a little bit to around here, something like this. Right, it won't be perfect, but it will be good enough, I believe, for a basic selection for a circular based shape. Right, so we've got this rounded selection, and if we hold down the control key and zoom out, just going to middle mouse click, let's zoom in a little bit. At the moment, what GIMP is saying is we've selected the ball shape, but we want to remove the background. Before we move the background, we should right click on this picture and set an alpha channel. If we don't do that, we won't get transparency, right? So we select alpha channel here. Some images that you drag and drop into GIMP will have this as default and you won't be able to select it. So when we click on this, if you right click on the picture and it says remove alpha channel, that means the original image that you drag and dropped into GIMP already had the alpha channel applied. So you only need to select add alpha channel if the option is available in here, but you must select it if it is available, right? Now we've got two options. We can either cut this and move it to a different image, or we can just remove the background. At the moment, GIMP has selected the ball and we want to remove the background, so we're going to go to select and invert. So we're going to select everything now but the ball. So it's selecting everything, the background, but it's not selecting anything inside of this circle. Now we can go to edit and go to cut, and now we've got the ball on its own, right? And if we go to select and none, and now we can see the ball, and then we can go to view and we can turn off show guides. Let's turn them off, and now you can see the ball is selected and it's a rounded object, right? So the first example is to select something that is a rounded object, and it would make sense that we save our work. So let's go to file, save as. We'll go to my desktop and we're working on, let's see, where are we? Let's just find that folder, 7 ways, and then this circle shape, right? So we can just name this file, let's just call it circle shape, and click save. Now we've got the ball there, and it would be nice if we just maybe drag another picture in the background, and then we can just resize the ball, and then we'll be done with this part of the tutorial. So let's just go ahead and open up the web browser, and let's go to Unsplash. We're on Unsplash. Let's just type in something like football, because it is a football. You've got like football stadiums here. We've got different pictures. This is the image that we just used, right? So let's see if we can find something that we can use. Let's find something here. Maybe we'll use that first picture. Let's see. Let's go ahead and use this picture here at the top, right? This one. So we'll select it and we'll download it. And then let's go ahead and drag and drop that picture into this folder. So we can see the picture in the folder. And we can drag and drop that onto the layers. And if we zoom out, now we've got the ball and we've got the background picture, and we can easily select this ball, go to the scale tool, click on the ball. What would make sense, right? At the moment, let's click on the ball itself. At the moment, when we click on the ball, the layer is quite large for the ball, so we want to isolate that. So we can do that by going to the rectangle selection tool and just drawing a little rectangle around the box here, like this. And then we can go to layer and then crop to selection. Yeah, now we've got just a little simple box around the ball. So now when we go to click on the ball object, really we should go to select none first. We can click on the ball object, and then we can click on the scale tool, and now we can click on the ball itself, and our handles will just be around the ball. So we can resize it. Let's make it a bit small. Right, we're just having a bit of fun here, right? It's not accurate in terms of size, and then you can just move the ball. Maybe we just place it down here somewhere just for a bit of fun, right? So we've removed the background, and then we've taken that image and then we've placed it on top of another image. We're just having a bit of fun here, but you get the idea. Maybe that was a ball in the crowd, or you can even put the ball. Let's put the ball in the goal, or just right near the goal, right? So let's zoom in. Let's be a bit cheeky. Let's undo that. In fact, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's take this ball and move it closer to the goal. Let's grab it, move it here. Press S to press Shift and S, right? Shift and S to scale it. Let's scale it right down. Maybe we put the ball in front of the goalkeeper, but it needs to be pretty small, right? That's still too probably big, but we can at least move it there. So let's grab the handle in the center, move it towards the goalie here, and we will scale it down a bit more. Let's click scale. I reckon that's about right. And then we can zoom back out. You can barely see the ball, but you get the idea. If you were to zoom into this picture, let's undo that. Zoom into this picture, and you can see the ball here with the goalie, right? And then you can take that ball and you can probably place it. There's one over here already, so you can just take that ball and just replicate it and have it all over the pitch, or do something like that. So that's how you remove the background from an image, which is a circular based object, right? It needs to be circular based. Remember, in GIMP, a lot of the stuff that we do is destructive. So if you were to scale something, make sure you save an original copy, because when we scale back out, you can see it's all pixelated, right? So you should always save a GIMP file first of the original image at its original size, and then do your artwork and drag in your background. So we just save this for now. Let's just save it, and that's our circular shape, and we'll move on to the next part of the tutorial. Okay, so next we want to use the square selection tool. So we're going to go back to the web browser. I'm going to paste in this link. I'll put a link to this image in the YouTube description. Let's download it, and this one's all about the square selection. So we're going to create a folder in here, call it square image or square shape image, and we'll drag and drop that picture into here. Let's open up our GIMP software. Let's get to that directory and drag and drop this into here. So as we selected an image which was circular shape, we have the square shape tool, right, or the rectangle select. So we can click on rectangle select, and we can go to our image, and I want to isolate. There's lots of square images in here, right? They're all picture frames and stuff, but we want to isolate this particular image here, maybe for example, or this one, doesn't really matter. But we're just going to zoom into this particular picture, try and get as close to it as possible, and then on the outside edge of this picture, we're going to left click, we're going to drag. This one's nice and easy, right? And when you let go of the mouse button, you can adjust it by clicking on these handles in the corner, and you can try and get your selection as best as possible. So here's a picture that we want to isolate, and remember, when we want to remove a background, we need to right click on here and then add alpha channel if it doesn't exist. So we'll add an alpha channel. Let's just hold down the control key and zoom out, and then we can go to select, and we want to invert it. We want to select everything but this picture. So we invert, and then we'll go to edit, and we can go to cut, and now we just got that picture isolated on its own. We can go to select and none. We want to remove the selection, right? And then we can put another selection around this image. So we've still got the same tool selected, just drag a selection around that picture like this, and then we can go to let's see, we'll go to layer, and then we'll go crop to selection, and now we've got a nice box around this picture for when we want to manipulate that particular image. So we'll go to select and none, and let's go to file and save as, and we'll go back a directory, square shape image. So it seems like we're in the right direction already. So let's just call this square shape image. And then we can save this, and we can drag any other background into here. My advice to you is, once you've got your image selected, you should save it as a file, because that will be your original artwork. That's your original file, and then you can go and create another separate picture for a different style of file, right, or different picture. So if we were to go back to Unsplash and just type in something like wall, let's just see, we can find something in here. Maybe let's just say this picture here would be a good example. So I'll copy that. I'll put a link to this image in the YouTube description as well. Let's just call it sample images, and we will download this picture. So let's download it, and we'll drag and drop that into our folder here. And we should create a new image from this file, and then we can put this image onto the background. So let me show you how to do that. Let's go to file, new. In fact, let's just go to file, open, and I believe it's this one, right? When you click on it, if you give it a few seconds, it will show you a preview, and we can click open. Now we've got that picture here. Let's see. We want to add that picture in the background here somewhere, right? So we can go back to our original file, click here, click on this layer, copy it, press Ctrl C, go to our new picture, press Ctrl V, and now there's our little picture. We can grab the move tool, and we can move that picture somewhere like here maybe. And then if you want to scale it, you can click on the scale tool. You need to anchor the floating layer, so anchor it down. In fact, really what we should have done, because this is now a part of that original image, right? So we scale it, it's going to be a problem. So what we should do is press Ctrl Z to undo, press Ctrl Z to undo, and just press Ctrl Z to undo. And really what we want to do is create a new blank layer first. So let's create a layer, and it should be transparency here, and click OK. So now we can paste onto this layer. So we can go back, we've got the layer selected, let's click it, press Ctrl C to copy, go back to GIMP here, click on this blank layer, then press Ctrl V to paste, and then anchor it down, and it will be on its own layer. Now you can click that picture and move it wherever you want, right? And we could draw a selection around this to make it a bit easier. So we can go to image, in fact we'll go to the selection tool here, the square selection, select around. Let me just explain why I'm doing that. So if I click on this picture, let's just go to select, select none is already done. If I click scale, the scale tool, and click on this picture and click on it, you can see the handles are all around the edge here. They're not really around the image itself, right? So what we can do is click, just press escape key, and if we go to this selection tool and draw a box around the picture, right, like this, and then go to image or go to layer and crop to selection, now our layer is just this bounding box here. So when we go to select none, and then we go to the scale tool, click here and go to scale, and we click on this picture here, our handles are just around the frame. So it's just a bit easier to work with, right? So you can scale it up a little bit if you want to make it a bit bigger, and then drag it over to here somewhere, and let's just click here, and now it's positioned, and click on the bottom layer. Now you can see that picture position on the artwork, and you can just click it and drag it wherever you want, right? You can just drag it wherever you want. Let's just go ahead and file, save as, let's just call this square image example, yeah, something like this, and we'll save that. So far we've used two selection tools. We've used the square selection or the rectangle selection and the round selection tool or the ellipse tool, right? The ellipse tool and the rectangle. So let's have a look at some other ways of selecting. So we can close this and we can close this as well. And let's move to the next image. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the web browser again, and we're going to download a different picture. So each one of the pictures we download is going to be a different style of selection, right? So if we go to the browser and paste this in, we're going to download this image. I'll put a link to this in the YouTube description. Let's minimize, and we're going to create a new folder in here, because each time we create a folder, it's going to be a different type of selection. And this one, we're going to use the fuzzy select tool. So we'll double click inside here. Let's drag and drop this picture in here. Let's go ahead and open up GIMP, and we'll get our folder open, and we'll drag and drop this picture into GIMP. So we've got this picture in here. We could right click and add alpha selection, add an alpha channel, so we can get a transparent background. So remember to do that first. And then we're going to go to here, hold down the left mouse button and click the fuzzy select. I'm just going to click on the picture. Now the fuzzy select tool is good for pictures which have a lot of contrast between the background and the foreground. So you can see the background is like this blue color, and then the person is quite, there's a lot of differences between the background and the foreground, right? So this is where the fuzzy select tool works pretty well. So we can just click in the blue section up here somewhere. And I've got there's some threshold settings here that you can adjust and play with, and the radius for the featherings, I've set it to like 5 here, and we should really set that to a little bit less, something like 2 or even 1. And then the threshold, I've set it to like 11.79. You can just adjust this, and depending on the threshold, if I were to set it very high, like 179, and click inside, right, it's going to start selecting inside of the picture, and we don't want that. So I'm going to press Ctrl and Z, or go to Edit, Undo, and set this to a much lower value. Make sure you set this to a lower value, to something like pretty low. Let's say around around 15. Let's try 15 and click inside, and you can still see it's selecting some of the person, so we don't want that. So we'll go to Edit, Undo Select Tool, and then we want to bring this down to maybe about 11.2. Now when we click inside, you can see that it's selecting right around the edge of the picture, and it's not selecting anything inside of the image. There's going to be a few things that we need to fix afterwards, but what we can do is just go to Edit and Cut, and now most of that background has been removed. Let's go to Select and None, and we can see the background has been removed, but we've still got kind of like this 1 pixel around the edge. You could leave that there if you wanted an outline around your picture, then you've kind of given yourself an outline, but we don't really want that. So let's do Ctrl Z and Ctrl Z one more time, and one more time, so we get back to our original image. So just Ctrl Z or Edit Undo until you get back to the original image. Let's just hold down this the space bar. You can hold it down to move the picture around, right? Use the mouse, and let's set the feathering to 0. Let's just turn off feathered edge, and we've got the threshold set to 11.2. Let's click the fuzzy select and select it again, and let's see how well our selection is now. We'll go to Edit and Cut, and let's just hold down the Control key and zoom in. So we still seem to see this like this border, so that might actually be on the original image. So let's just press Ctrl Z and check, and you can actually see that is a part of the image. This sort of like a little feather around the edge that is actually on the image itself. So there's not much we can do about that. So we can just go to Edit and Redo, Cut, and you can see like there's a few artifacts that we'll need to kind of tidy up afterwards. But we've got a good selection here, pretty good. So we can hold down the mouse button. Let's just pan it over here. Let's go to Select and None. So nothing's been selected now, and we want to create a new layer. So let's just create a new layer, and this layer we'll just set it to transparency for now and click OK. And we can drag this layer below this one, and this is kind of our layer that we're going to just color quite a strong color to see the artifacts. So we can click here on the swatch tool. Let's this swatch tool here, click it, select a strong color like red or green or something that's going to stand out quite hard against this background. we'll click OK, and we can go to the paint bucket tool and click inside the canvas. Make sure this layer is selected, click here, and it will fill it red. And now you can see where all the artifacts are, right? Where there's little problems that you need to kind of tidy up and clean up. So most of this selection is pretty good, but we want to get rid of this stuff up here and down here. So we can go ahead and click on the top layer, go to the eraser, and we've got quite a big eraser selected already. You can see the sizing and everything set up here. So it's set to about 144, and we can just go ahead and get rid of most of this quite quickly, right? Like this, and then we can hold down the control key, move to the bottom here and zoom right in, and then we can just get a bit closer to this. And you could go right around the whole image, tidying up this edge, right? So if you didn't want this white line around the image, you could go ahead and just erase it. It would take quite a bit of time for me to go around this image and erase that white line, so I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to undo that. It wasn't a very good example, but you know, you could go around and tidy up the edge. And this is unfortunately how things work when you're using GIMP. It's not ever going to be perfect, but we could do a pretty good job of removing the background, and maybe we'll add another background to this one. Let's just get rid of like all of these artifacts here quickly. This we don't really want in the picture, right? So sometimes you have to go back through and just tidy things up a little bit, but it's going to be a lot quicker than having to, you know, remove the background. And of course, there's other ways to remove this background. You could use a layer mask. You could use the free select tool. You could use the path tool as well. So there's a few different ways to remove the back. As you zoom out, you can like delete more. You can get rid of more of this stuff. Let's just finish this properly as best as possible. I might just show you how to do this. And we want to make this a little bit smaller. Let's make it a bit more smaller. Really, this stuff in here you won't really see, to be honest, but let's just do it justice. Like these little dots, something like in here we need to really clean up, right? Let's just clean it up in here. It shouldn't take too long, so you just go through the image, find out where all of these problems occur, and just get rid of them. It takes time, like all good things in life. If you want it done right, it's going to take you a bit of time. Let's just zoom out. I think there were some problems over here. Right. And you can change the brush, so you can click in here, and you can click something that's more of like a fuzzy edge, something like this, and that will help you to get a bit closer to the picture without removing too many pixels from the image. And you know, you can do a pretty decent job here. Because we're quite close, it doesn't look too great, right? But as we zoom out, you won't really notice much of these issues. You won't really see them. Obviously, if you're doing this for some print artwork, you're spending a lot of money on printing, you would put a lot more effort into it. But as a basic sort of example, I reckon this will be pretty good. Right? You could go around these fingers and just fix all this stuff. I'm not going to do all of this image. I'm just going to do a part of it. You get an idea of how you can clean up this image. Let's undo that. And it's about being patient. You know, the quicker you do this, the more sort of mistakes you'll make, and you just have to do it again. So you can see there's problems here, a few of them. To be honest, you probably wouldn't even see much of this when you zoom out. So if I were to zoom out now, you can see there's little artifacts here and stuff. If I zoom right out, you're not really going to see any of those problems. Those tiny little pixels, you're not going to see them at this sort of scale. Let's go to File, Save As, and we're in the fuzzy select tool image, so let's just call this fuzzy select tool. Let's save this. And then let's go ahead and open up our browser again, and let's just type in something like what would be good? Mountains, right? Mountains. And let's pick this picture. I think would be good. I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description as well. Let's download it. Let's open up this folder, drag and drop that picture into the same fuzzy select folder, and we can go to File, open, and then we'll select that mounting picture, click open, and we can go to our picture of this lady. First of all, we should go here and we should create a new layer, a new blank layer, transparency, click OK. So we've got a transparent layer. Click on this picture, click on this top layer of this lady. We don't want the red stuff, right? That's the background, just to get rid of the artifacts. We can click here and paste it, and then we can just go to the scale. In fact, we should anchor it down first. Click the anchor icon. Now it's on its own layer, and then we can click on the scale tool, click on the image, and then we can just scale it in to something like this, and then click scale, and then you've got that there. There's quite a few other things you could do. You could add like a blur around the background. Let's just click on the bottom layer. We could just go ahead and duplicate this layer. So let's just duplicate it, right click, and we'll just duplicate layer. Alright, so we've got one on the top. Let's hide that top one. Click on the one in the middle, so it's like one layer below. Let's go to image. In fact, let's go to, let's go to color, and let's do levels, and let's click this handle here and drag it all the way across so that it's black like this, and then click OK. And then we can go to the top image, turn it on, click this layer, this middle one, and then we can go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we can increase that Gaussian blur. Let's just increase it a bit more, something like this, and then click OK. And now you've got this nice little sort of blur effect around the edge of the image. If you turn it off and on, you can see that now quite clearly, right? Just adds a little bit more extra to your picture. So that's a good example. You can click both layers and just move them if you want to move them to a different part of the picture. But let's go to File, Save As, and we'll call this Fuzzy Select Tool, Image. So I'm showing you how to remove the backgrounds, but then also how to apply them to other images, because just removing a background and not knowing how to move it to a different picture is a bit rubbish, isn't it? So we might as well show you how to do it right. So that's another example, and that's using the Fuzzy Select tool. Let's close this and let's close this. Okay, let's go back here and open up the web browser. We're going to download this picture now of this parrot, and we're going to go to the folder. Let's download it, and this one we're going to show you how to use the path selection. So we're going to create a new folder called path tool, and we'll drag and drop that picture in here. Let's minimize this and drag and drop it into GIMP. Right, and we've got the path selection tool here. So we're going to click on the path selection tool, and as default we're going to set it to design here, right? And what the path tool allows us to draw around a picture to create a selection. So really you want to zoom quite close into the picture and start maybe from like this position here, and you're going to click and create these dots, and where you got like a rounded edge you can create more of a rounded edge. So if we zoom right in, you can kind of see like there's a bit of a rounded edge. So if you click around here, then hold down the left mouse button, you can draw that rounded edge out like this, right? And then you can grab this handle and just drag it back to around here to continue your selection. Let's drag it to about here, and then we'll click around here, and we can drag out that little bit of rounded edge there as well. So it depends on how accurate you want to be with this selection, but this is how I do it. So let's just hold down the control, let's hold down this the space bar so we can move it, and then we can click around here, and we can drag out that sort of shape, right, something like this, and then we can just drag across here. And then you don't have to drag out the rounded edges, you can just left click as well just to draw the shape out more in sort of a line. So if you do lots of small clicks, you should get a pretty good selection on this one as well. And if you click somewhere like here and you don't like that, you can just drag that handle back here and hold down the space bar, and we can probably do like a rounded edge here. So we just left click and then drag out, just keep dragging like this, and then we can hold down here and we can move. Really you want to take this dot, kind of draw a line in your imagination to about this position here, then left click and then drag like this, right, something like this, then hold down the left space bar, and this is pretty straight, so we can just like do a straight line, or we can drag this handle out a little bit, click around here and then drag out that shape, that rounded edge there like this, and then we can just keep going through this image. So this takes a bit of time and patience, but this is quite an accurate selection tool because you're not relying on software to do the selection. You're manually selecting the image yourself. So we could hold down the control key and zoom out a little bit, and we can hold down the space bar, and just we can speed this up by doing it a bit more further out. So this won't be as accurate. I would advise that you zoom in quite close and do your selection quite close. Yeah, it'll be more accurate, but we want to speed this up a little bit, right? Because I don't want to bore you to death. Let's just keep selecting around here. And I could speed this up, I guess, do one of them little tricks in video editing and just speed up the whole selection, but I would prefer to show you how much pain I'm going through to do this, and then you'll realize it takes time and it's not a quick thing. Right? You know, the smaller the dots, the more accurate your selection will be. So if you do lots of smaller dots, you'll get probably a better selection. You can go back and adjust these dots. You can click on them and you can move them into different positions just to get your selection a little bit better. Let's click on this dot and then continue the selection. So if you decide to go and click on, let's say, this one, and you move it, yeah, and you move it back to position or just accurate wherever you want to move it, make sure you click on the last dot, this one here, and then continue your selection from that point. Alright, it'll be better for you. So like around here, we could draw, left click and draw this little rounded edge. We can click around here and draw that out there. So when you get to like rounded edges, you can do that, right? You can left click and hold down the mouse button to draw sort of rounded, more rounded edges. And we're doing this wrong. So let's just do Control Z. Let's just zoom out and see, because we're going like down here, but we want to come down here, right? So let's zoom back in. Let's hold down the space bar. And let's just click here. And it's more like down here that we want to be going, right? This sort of direction. Okay, let's try and speed it up a little bit. So when you get to rounded edges like this, like the feather, you want to click like in the middle here maybe and drag around that sort of shape. Might not work too well. So around here, and you can click here and drag out that sort of shape there for the feather, right? Like the rounded edge. It's not the best one there, but as an example, it should be fine. And you could, in theory, click here and then drag that whole feather out like this, you see? And you want to grab this handle here and drag it closer to this one, like very close, and then continue your selection like this. Let's see what we're selecting. Let's zoom out a little bit here. So we don't really want to go this way. We want to come up to here. A little bit difficult to see that, but let's drag that like this. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not being the most accurate here. Normally, even though this looks like it's taking a long time, normally I would spend a lot more time on these positions of these dots, yeah, because that's going to make all the difference. So it's up to you. You can spend a little bit of time on it or more if you like. And there's a few other ways to do this. You could use a layer mask, right? And that's quite accurate as well. Layer mask. I'm going to show you that maybe as well in this tutorial, but really I just want to show you the different tools. So we use like the rounded selection tool, yeah? Like the rounded selection tool first. We use that because the ball was rounded. Then we use like the picture frame. We use the rectangle selection tool, and then we use the fuzzy select because that particular picture had a very simple background. So this one you couldn't use the fuzzy select, it just wouldn't work because the background here is so mixed up. It's not like a flat color, right? It's got a lot of different things going on in there, so it'd be very difficult to use that particular tool. We could just click here and draw out a rounded edge here, and zoom in a little bit, grab this handle and place it around here. And we can zoom out and click around here and drag that rounded edge there. Let's zoom back in, grab this handle, move it closer to here. Let's see, we can drag probably here. Let's zoom in, grab this handle, move it around here. Let's click on this one. In fact, what did I do there? Let's see, paths. Let's turn it back on. Let's click on the path tool again, edit, click here. Let's turn it back on. We can continue. So if you go and click on another tool, you see that the path tool will be deselected, right? So sometimes you press a key on a keyboard and you like everything just gets removed. So what you want to do is click back on the path tool here, go to the paths here, activate it, and you will see this red line, and then click edit, and then click on it, and you can continue your work, yeah? So just be careful if you click on something. And you can go back to design and you can continue your path there, right? Sometimes that happens. You'll click on your keyboard the wrong key and you think you lost everything, but don't worry, you haven't lost it all. You just need to click on those options to get it back again. Let's just move this a lot closer here. Alright, so let me just undo that. So normally when I want to draw like a rounded edge here, yeah, normally I take this line and I draw a line to this sort of position, like opposite. Then you can left click and drag it and you'll get like quite an accurate rounded edge there. So always try and work like horizontal lines, and then when you click and left click and drag, it will make your life a lot easier. So if you took this line here and you drew a line to around here, left click and then drag it, it's just going to work much better for you. That's how I kind of use this tool. It seems to work better that way. But if you try and drag all the way up here somewhere, you won't get quite an accurate rounded edge. So you take this dot, kind of draw a line in your head to about here, left click and drag it, and you'll get a nice rounded edge like that, right? And we can just grab this handle and move it out a bit, and then grab this, let's move it to around here. Let's just zoom out a little bit, and we can take this, draw a line to around here, drag it, create that selection. Let's move this in a little bit, and then take, let's undo that. Let's zoom in here, grab this dot and move it closer to here. Alright, we can drag this out slightly. Let's move this quite close. Click here. Let's get this part. I believe this is a bit of the parrot. I think it's a parrot. We're almost done, right? So what an epic around the block cutout. So finally we'll be able to join our selection at the end. So let's just get in here. So let's see, it's not joining. Actually, what we need to do is hit the enter key, and the enter key will create that selection now, yeah? When you hit the enter, let's spacebar and move around. And I believe the best thing we should do is go to file. In fact, let's go to go back to our layers. Let's right click and add alpha channel. All right, then we should be able to go to select and invert the selection, and then go to edit and cut, and now we've got the parrot there by itself. And we can click on the move tool, and that will remove the what's it called, what is it, the paths, but the paths still exist in here, yeah? So if you ever want to go back and tweak and edit it, the paths still exist. So if we go to select and let's go to none, now we've got a nice selection of the parrot. So this did take quite a bit of time. Right, you can turn off the path here, turn it off, and then you kind of hide that red outline. So this one took quite a long time, I won't lie to you, but look at the end result. The end result is quality, right? Good quality cutout. It looks pretty good. I'm quite impressed anyway. So I think we did a pretty good job there, but this takes the longest amount of time, but it gives you the best selection. So let's go to file, save as, and we're in the path image. Let's call this path image, and let's just save this, and then let's maybe do something like rain forest. Let's see if we can find somewhere to place our bird on a picture. So maybe kind of like a branch or something, right? Something where there's a branch in the image. Maybe we'll look for a tree. Let's just use this as an example, right? It doesn't really matter too much, but we'll kind of use that as an example. Let's drag that picture into our folder, and then let's go to file, open, and we'll select this tree. Got the tree here. Let's go back to the bird. Let's click on that layer, copy it, press Ctrl C to copy, go over to here, create a new layer. Let's create a new layer, click OK, and then press Ctrl V to paste, and then anchor it down. And then we can click on the scale tool, click on the parrot, let's scale it right down, right, to maybe this sort of size, and we can move the parrot to position. Obviously it wouldn't be that big because this tree is pretty big, right, but you can kind of move the parrot here to somewhere like this. Let's just zoom out, and we can click on the background tool and click scale, and we've got a little parrot sitting in the tree. But obviously you could zoom in to like here, and then you could do some color correction and just kind of get it to blend in a little bit more, but you get the idea, right? And our selection and our cutout was pretty good. Remember that we never want to really want to resize this original image, because this will be our best quality version. So always save this as a GIMP file, and then we can always cut and paste that in other places. We can do other things to it, so we can just click on the picture, you can go to color, you can go to hue and saturation, and you can start changing the colors, right? You can literally change the color of the parrot. You can create a different colored version of this parrot. The blue looks pretty cool, quite like the orangey red sort of color, right? You can just change, reduce the saturation, just try and get it to match your picture. You can change the lightness or the brightness, and you can play around with it, but always save your original file. And if you manipulate it, I would advise that you duplicate the layer. So create a duplicate copy, hide your original one, always keep your original copy, then edit and manipulate the top one, right? So you can go to color, go to let's see, hue and saturation, and we can drag that to like this color, and then click OK. Select that one, press Ctrl C to copy, come over to here, create a new layer, make it transparent, click OK, press Ctrl V to paste. Right, then you can click here, let's select it, anchor it down, click on this layer, let's press Shift and S to scale it, let's hold down the Control key and zoom out a bit. We'll try and scale it down to roughly the same size as the other parrot, and then we'll click scale, and we'll click, let's see, we want to flip this image, so let's go to here, where is it, here, and click flip, and then click on the picture. We'll turn the parrot the other way around, and then we'll click here, and we can move that parrot maybe to like here somewhere. It's a bigger parrot, this happens to be a bigger one. Let's tab here and move across, and you could create loads of colored parrots now and place them all over the tree, and have a bit of fun. Obviously this part is not really about removing the background, but it's nice to know how to place that new image onto a different image, and that's that one, right? So let's go to File, Save As, and we'll save this as path image example, and we can close that. Now hopefully in the next version of GIMP, a lot of the things that we do will hopefully be less destructive, because when we go and do a colored image like this and change the color, it's actually applying it to the layer. But I believe in the next versions of GIMP, like in Photoshop, if we were to do this in Photoshop and change the hue and saturation, it wouldn't actually permanently affect the pixels, but in GIMP it actually changes the pixels. This is why I'm saying it's better to keep an original copy, duplicate it, do whatever you want to do to that picture, but always retain your original layer below, so you've got the original artwork cut out, right? And the cutout was pretty good on this one. Let's go to File, Save, and we can close down this particular picture. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the web browser. Let's download another picture. So I'm going to go to Pixabay and download this picture of these plant pots, and we just click download here, and we download this picture. Let's go to the folder, and this time we're going to use the select by color. So let's right click and do select by color. Let's click here and drag and drop this picture into here, and then we'll open up GIMP and we'll open up this picture by dragging and dropping it. And there's another tool here, it's called the select by color tool. So if we select that tool, we'll get some options up here. You can turn on feathering, and that will draw a feathered edge around your selection. We're going to leave that off for now. And we've got a threshold here, and then we've got select by. So you can select by a certain type of color in here, but normally I use the composite. That seems to be the most accurate. And if we wanted to select a specific color, now this tool works best when the picture is quite flat colors. So these are quite flat colors in here. You can see they're all quite flat. This tool works the best that way. So let's just say we want to select this blue color. You can see there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like these 5 little blue circles. So if we click on the blue circle, you can see that it's done a selection for all of them. If I turn on feathered edge and click on it again and like increase the feathered edge, you'll get this feathered edge around. You can see like the edging around here. But if I were to turn that off and click it, it's going to give you a much accurate selection, right, just to the pixel. You can turn on anti-aliasing as well. That will help a little bit as well with the selection. So we've got these blue circles selected, and it's only selected those colors because we're selecting by color in the composite, in the actual image itself. So now we can go to something like tools or colors. We can go here, we can go to hue saturation, and we can change the colors of just those circles. You can see because we've selected those particular elements. We'll make them purple, for example, or pinkish or purple, and click OK. You can do the same, so you can go back here, select by color, you can click on the yellow. Now only those yellow objects have been isolated. You can go to tools or color here, go to the hue and saturation, and you can change just those yellow elements. Right, so this is a nice simple tool to use. It works best when the images are quite flat and the colors are quite flat. Then you're going to get a sort of a better selection around your images. Not perfect by any means, but it does a pretty good job if you just want to manipulate just some basic colors. If you've got like a logo and you've got quite flat colors in there, you can use this tool to manipulate and then use the hue and saturation to change those colors. So there's not much to explain about this tool. It's pretty easy to use. It's the select by color. You can change the threshold here as well, so you can increase or decrease the threshold. And when you click on the picture, if you increase it too high, you can see it's starting to select other content inside the image. So you want to manipulate the threshold until you can get to a point where it's only selecting the specific color that you want. Otherwise it will cause problems, right? So just be careful. So I've set it to like 15. You can see that it's only really selecting these petals now. You can just reduce the threshold until you get a perfect selection like this. You can go to color. You can play around with this, right? You can go to color, hue and saturation. You can increase the lightness or increase it or decrease it. All right, and play around with these tools to just manipulate the colors inside of this particular image. It works best with like vector based images. So this is originally a vector image. Obviously when you move it into GIMP it turns it into a bitmap image, but in general this is how I use the tool. I don't really use it that often, but it's only when I've got like a really flat clean logo or something like that and I just want to change the colors quickly. This is a quick easy way to do it. If you want to remove your selection, just go to select and none, and that will get rid of that selection for that particular image. Let's just go to file, save as, and we'll call this select by color, right? Let's just call it select by color, and we'll save that, and let's close this. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the web browser, and we're going to download this smartphone picture, this one here. We're going to click free download. Let's minimize this, and we want to create a new folder called foreground select. We'll open that and drag and drop this picture in here, and let's go to GIMP and we'll drag and drop that picture in here, and we'll just right click and add our alpha channel. Remember to add your alpha channel, and we're going to use the foreground select. So we're going to click here and select foreground select, and we're going to just start down here, like down here somewhere, and we're just going to draw these little dotted lines around what we want to keep, right? So I want to keep this hand and the phone, but I want to get rid of all of the background. So I'm just going to go around the picture here, try and get as close to it as possible. It doesn't have to be like super close, something like this, right? And we want to get rid of all of this inside here. We don't really want any of this, and let's just join it down here. So after you've done that, hit the enter key, and you'll see like this blue background, right? So anything that's this dark blue shade is going to get ignored by GIMP. GIMP saying, well, you're saying to GIMP, just ignore completely everything that is this darker shade blue. Just get rid of it. We're not interested in that. But we're interested in everything that's inside of this selection that we created. And now we just need to tell GIMP what is the specific content that we want to select as accurately as possible, right? So what we need to do is select a color that is easy for us to paint. So you can see the background is blue. You can click here and change it to a different color. So you could set it to like green if you want, and click OK. Then it'll be like this green shade, and that just might be better for you because you might have a lot of green in your picture, and it might just make sense to change it to green. But I'm going to leave it at like blue, and the color doesn't really matter too much. This is just to show GIMP that we don't want this color, or this anything blue we don't want. So, but the paintbrush we want to select like a red color. So if we click cancel, click on this top swatch and select something quite strong, like a red. Yeah. If your background, if your selection around here was red, then you select like a blue color, an opposite. We'll click OK, and then inside here we've got stroke, and this is the size of the paintbrush. So we can change the size of the paintbrush here. We can have it quite large to start with, and we just want to draw in a selection around here to show GIMP what we want to want to keep. So I'm going to move to like the bottom right hand corner here and zoom in, and I'm going to start to draw or paint, and I want to paint right up to the edge of the hand, but not over. So do a piece of the content and let go of the mouse button, and then do a bit more. And the reason why you need to let go of the mouse button every so often is, and you will thank me for it, is if you do a piece of the selection, imagine you do loads of selection and then by accident you go off of the hand, you can just press Ctrl Z to undo that one step, right? So if you let go of the mouse button every so often, you can undo the step. But if you do a lot of the selection like here and you make a mistake, then unfortunately you're gonna have to undo a lot of the work, and you don't want to do that. So you know, take my advice on that one. Let's move down here. We can do all this bit quite quickly, and let's just let go of the mouse button. Just want to come across here. You can hold down the control key and zoom in more just to get a more closer edge in. So we're getting quite close to the edge of this hand, and we're just going to go around it. And again, this tool takes a little bit of time to use, but we should get a pretty good selection if we create this edging selection pretty well, right? So all of this phone we want to keep. So you can zoom back out and you can just fill in all this hand here. And then, you know, sometimes I just like kind of start at the top and just make sure I stay inside the edge and try and do a big bulk of it quite quickly. You know, we know we want to keep all of this. We want to keep some of this. We want all of this phone. Let's just fill all of this in here. And then it's just a bit easier to go around the edge afterwards, knowing that you've done most of the selection here already, right? Just keep all of this. And you can see the hand is grayed out here, so it hasn't been selected. But if we zoom in onto this phone, we just want to get this bottom part of this phone in here as well. Would be wise. And then we can just zoom out, and you can use like even a bigger brush just to go and do the bulk of the work. So you can go around here, come down the hand here. This just speeds things up a bit, so you can do the main selection and then go around the edging and tidy it up afterwards. So let's just start from this thumb where we left off. Let's just zoom in and make the brush a bit smaller, something like this. And then we want to make sure we select all of this here. Let's just undo that. Let's just be a bit more accurate, like here. And then we're going to get the edge of this phone. So try and get some of those black pixels on the phone. Yeah. And that will tell GIMP that's kind of the edge there. Like this. And just keep going around the edge of this image. I'm trying to select like this black part. You see this black line here? I'm trying to get that into the selection. Not all of it, but some of it. Because there's quite a contrast between those black pixels and the surrounding after it, right? There's quite a lot of contrast between them. So that will help GIMP to understand that selection. Like here, right? Like this. Sometimes it's worth zooming out just to make sure you're doing your selection right. So that's pretty good, right? So we're selecting along this edge right now. So we just continue to do that. It takes time. I know I'm probably boring you. You can set this to like fast forward on YouTube. You can set it to like 2x speed, or you can just skip forward. But you can understand what I'm doing here on this picture. So you can just skip ahead if you want. If you're not interested in watching this, I don't mind. But I just don't like videos that speed through things, and you don't really see much in the video. It's just, let's see what's going on here. So sometimes it's worth zooming out just to check that your selection is correct. And that kind of helps you to get a better selection as well. Remember to let go of that mouse button every so often. Let's just zoom out here. So we want all of this edge in here, right? So we want to get all of this around here. I think that should be pretty good. And then let's go across the top here. And I'm pretty sure GIMP's going to improve the selection tools in the next version of GIMP. So when GIMP 3 comes out, I believe a lot of these selection tools are going to be a lot better. But for now, this is what we have. So this is what we get to use. And in Photoshop, you can do something pretty similar like this. It doesn't have this particular tool, I don't believe, but you typically use the layer mask, right, to do this selection. You have to be really careful. If you go off the edge, it can cause a problem with your selection afterwards. So it's worth zooming in quite close, and then you can be more accurate. It takes longer. It takes longer when you're zooming in, but you don't want to do all this work and then your selection is rubbish, basically. Alright, so we want this white edge here coming down here. Normally I like to work from bottom to top. It's a bit quicker for me to move the mouse upwards rather than downwards. So I'm holding down the space bar and using the mouse to move the canvas down so that I can start the next part of the selection. I think that would be okay. I think, let's see, let's zoom out a little bit here. Let's see. I'm gonna get this thumbnail here. Let's just finish off this bit here. Sometimes you can increase the size of the brush. You can get way more done quicker, especially on a flat edge. Yeah, you've got a flat edge like that, like the phone's edge. You can do a lot more, a lot quicker, because you can just cover more pixels quicker. Okay, that seems pretty good. So let's zoom out and see what's going on here. So we've got the hand here. We've done some of the selection. Can you see like the difference between the colors here? So that kind of gives you an idea of what needs still to be selected. So you can see it's quite dark here. So I want to get this nail in here. So remember to let go of the mouse button every so often, and that will help with your selection. It's quite hard to see this, so it's not the easiest. Could change the color, right, to maybe green, might be a bit easier. It's the time and effort that we put in now will result in a better selection, right? If you put that time and effort in, you're going to get a better result with this particular tool. It takes time, that's the only thing. But, you know, if you want quality, put in the effort. Let's try and do this bit here. Let's do this last bit down at the bottom here. I don't think there's too much left to do. Let's see. So I think we're pretty good, right? I think we've done a pretty good job. I think we have to come down this edge here as well. This one doesn't look too clean. So let's just grab this bit here. It's worth just double checking around your edging before you confirm the selection, just in case you miss something, right? But in most cases you should be fine. So I like to just double check around the edge here. Let's see, could be a bit better here. It's worth just quickly checking around the edge. Let's just have a quick look. So all of this seems fine. We can zoom out a little bit here. You can see it's not the best down this edge here, so we should really try and refine that. So all this effort we're putting in now will result in a better selection, right? That's the bottom line. So if you want it to be good, then make the selection good as well, and you'll get a better result. If you make a mistake, Control Z to undo. That's a quick shortcut. Just Control and Z. And I think we're almost done, right? Doesn't look like there's too much left. I think we're pretty good here. Let's just check it. Can zoom out a little bit here. I think we're good, right? So you can see a lot of what we want to keep is highlighted now quite clean on the picture. Now we can click the select tool. Select. And GIMP's going to do all its magic. You have to be patient now because you have to go around and look at your selection and try and work out how to select that accurately, right? So just be patient, let it do its job, and we should get a good selection out of this. Okay, the selection is done, and now we want to create a new layer. Let's create a new layer. It'll be transparent and click OK, and then we're going to go to edit and copy, and we'll click on that new layer at the top and then press Ctrl and V or edit paste. Edit paste, and then we'll anchor that down, and then we can hide this layer. Something didn't work there, right? We don't see no picture here. So let's press Ctrl Z to undo, and we probably, let's see, edit copy. So we're going to copy that selection. Let's click on this new blank layer, edit paste. It should work in theory. If it doesn't, then we need to figure out why. So we can't see anything in here, right? So let's just do Control Z and Control Z, then Control Z one more time so we see our selection here. Let's go to select and invert it. Then let's go to edit copy, click on that top layer, edit paste. Let's anchor that one. We still don't seem to see the image for some reason. Let's try and figure out what's going on here, because we have a selection here. We should be able to just press Control C. Actually, I don't know why. Okay, I'm being a bit stupid. So we'll create the blank layer, alright, and then we have to click on this this layer here first. So let's try this now. So we have to click on that layer because that's where the selection is. Let's go to edit copy, and then we'll click on the top layer, then click edit paste, and then select. And now when we hide it, we can see the selection. Yeah. So what was I doing wrong there? I'll explain. Let's just go all the way back. So this is where we made the selection, and we wanted to create a new layer. So let's create that new layer here, and then transparency and click OK. So we had the new layer, but when I was going to edit copy, this layer was selected. We're not copying from that layer, right? So when I was going to edit, copy, edit, paste, I was copying a blank layer and pasting it on top of a blank layer. But we need to select this one here. And remember, I did, let's see, let's just, I don't think we need to invert it, right? This is fine. So we can now just click on this bottom layer, go to edit, copy that one, then click on the top layer and go to edit, paste, and then just anchor it down, and then we can hide it. Let's see, sorry, we can hide this layer, and we've got our selection, and it's pretty good, right? There's a couple of little things that we would probably tidy up in here. Let's just click the move tool. Let's see. Let's click on the layer, move tool. We can zoom in. So just small things like that. You can go in with the eraser, reduce its size, select something like a really fuzzy selection or fuzzy eraser, and you can just go in there and clean up little bits in there that just don't look quite right. Right, and to really see the selection if it's done well, you can just click on that layer, create a new layer, and just click OK, drag that layer below it, and then pick a strong color like red like before. So we'll pick a strong color. In fact, we could take this layer first, click the move tool, and let's just move it to like this bottom corner here will make more sense. Let's click this second layer here, this one here underneath, go to the paint bucket tool and fill it, and now we can see how good our selection is, and it's pretty good, right? So that took a bit of time, but because we were quite accurate with our selection, we got pretty good edging around it. But you can see there's a few small things that we'll need to fix on it. So just go with the eraser, click on the top layer, and you can go in and erase these pixels that just don't look quite right. You can make the size a little bit bigger as well, and you can just clean up the edging like we did before on the other picture. We had to clean up some of the pixels, right? You can see it's pretty good, and when you zoom out, you're not really going to notice those things. But on this side over here near the hand, you can see that we need to clean this up a little bit as well. So this is not the most perfect selection tool, but it does a pretty good job if your effort in the selection is good. If you do a rubbish selection, then you know everything else in here is not going to be too good, to be honest. So you want to do a proper good selection, and that will help the end result to be much better, like this. You can go around these edging and just clean up the edging a little bit, just tidy it all up. But overall, not bad at all, not bad at all. It's a pretty good job. So what we can do is save this as a GIMP file first, because we never want to manipulate this original image. Let's just click on the erase tool and get rid of this here. And we'll go to file, zoom out again a little bit, and let's save this as original GIMP file. So let's go to file, save as, and we're in the foreground select tool. So let's just paste that name in here, foreground select tool. Let's click save, and now we've got that original file. So we'll save this original file, and then if we want to create or add this image to another picture, then we can just copy that and paste it into the next picture. So let's do that anyway, like we've done with the other images. So we're on the Pexel website, so let's search for an office. You kind of got this office. Let's grab this, let's download it. I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description if you want to use it. And then we'll go back to our folder, drag and drop this picture in here. Let's go and open up this file, which will be this one here. Click open. Let's create a new layer. It will be a transparent layer. Let's go back to that image, click on the top layer, press Ctrl C to copy it, go to this layer here, press Ctrl V to paste it and anchor it down, and then you can click on the scale tool, click on the picture, scale it down in size, probably around this size. You can click on this middle box here and drag it into position, right? And you can change the opacity here so you can see what's in the background and what you're covering. But I reckon that's pretty good. Let's click scale, and then we can click on the background picture, and there you go. Right? It's been cut out. It's been placed on top of the other image. You could even cut out this phone content, and you could use a layer mask or something and put your own website in there, for example. You could do something like that. Quite creative. Let's go to file. Let's save this image. Let's save it, file, save as, and we'll call this image tool example. Let's save that, and then we can close both of these. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the web browser one more time, and we're going to download this picture. I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description. Let's download it, and we're going to use a layer mask now. So let's copy this and paste it into here. this name. Let's cut this, paste it in here in the folders, and we'll click layer mask and we'll drag and drop that picture in here. Let's just minimize this and open up GIMP, and we're going to drag and drop that picture in here. We've got this like Mario and Yoshi and all that good stuff, right? So what we want to do is just isolate Mario first. I think we'll cut him out or remove the background from him. We could probably use the magic wand tool, right, to do that, because the background and the foreground are quite a lot of contrast, but I want to show you how to do layer mask, right? So what we'll do is go to our rectangle select tool. Let's just select Mario, right here. Let's just make sure we only select him. Let's just drag this to the side a little bit here, like here. Make this selection quite close to the edge, something like this, and then we'll go to layer and crop to selection. Now we've just got Mario isolated, and we can just move that more towards the center, and then just go to select and none, and we've got Mario here, and we want to use the layer mask tool. Okay, so we've got the picture of Mario here. Let's right click and add an alpha channel here, and we're going to right click on this same layer again, and we're going to duplicate it. Let's hide the bottom layer, click on the top one, and we're going to go to color, and we're going to go to invert. So we're going to just reverse the colors basically, right? So we can see where white is white and where black is black. And basically what we want to do is get the paintbrush tool and paint all of this object white. And white will keep, and anything that isn't white, like the background and stuff, that's all going to get removed. But we should be fine, it should work out fine, right? So if we took the paintbrush and we started to paint just the base of the object, right? Just try and get as much of the object done as quickly as possible, like this. And don't go on the outside, you want to stay on the inside of the actual picture, and just get the bulk of it done quite quickly, right? Because we're going to have to go in and refine the edges afterwards. It's a bit like the foreground select tool we used before, but we're using something called a layer mask now instead, right? It's kind of similar to the foreground select tool. And let's see, let's just zoom in here a little bit, and you just want to do the bulk of it as quickly as possible, and then we're going to go through and refine around the edges afterwards. So just do like the bulk selection. This is how I normally do it, right? Just do the main parts first, get them out of the way, and then you can go around and tidy up the edges afterwards, right? But just make sure you're only selecting what you want to keep. So it's very much like the foreground select tool, kind of similar process, but this technique can be more accurate but takes a lot longer. So let's start off with the top of the head up here. Let's just hold down the control key and zoom in. Let's make our brush quite big, and we're just going to go around the edge here of this hat. Right, and try and get as accurate as possible. The more accurate and time we spend on this, the better our selection will be. Again, it's not the most perfect technique, but it is a way to get a selection, a layer mask. So you can improve the layer mask afterwards. I won't worry about it too much. You can like refine the layer mask afterwards. And normally I use like a big brush and try and do as much of it as possible using this particular brush. And then anything where you can't get the brush into, you kind of come back afterwards and just go over it again. You can do most of this using quite a big brush, and it just speeds things up a little bit. Just use the space bar to move the canvas. Because this is a layer mask, you you can adjust it afterwards. So if it's not quite right or there's things that you want to fix, you can fix them after, so it's not a problem. So if it's not 100% accurate, you can always go in and adjust the layer mask afterwards. But for now, you can see it doesn't take too long to do this. I would say the foreground select tool is a lot more time consuming, but you can do a pretty good job here as well. So obviously, if you're getting bored like usual, fast forward. And remember to let go of the mouse button, just like all the other selections. Remember to let go of the mouse button every so often, so if you make a mistake like I just did, you can undo it without having to undo a lot of the steps that you're processing or that you're doing. And you have to bear with me, I'm concentrating here. Let's just zoom out and see what we've got here. So that's pretty good, right? It's not too bad so far. And just take your time. But if you use quite a big brush, you can do this pretty quick. It's not too time consuming, but remember, again, once you're happy with a good part of the selection, let go of that mouse button. Just do that for me, and you can thank me later. Right. I can see it's not perfect, right? But the advantage of layer mask is that you can undo, or you can fix things that are not quite right afterwards. So you can do a rough, well, quite an accurate selection first, and then you can refine it later. Because all we're telling GIMP is anything that is white we want to keep, anything that isn't white we're going to get rid of. So let's just do this bit more accurately. Okay. So the foot down here is a little bit tricky. We'll just draw it in like this for now, and we'll see if we need to fix it later. Let's just make this brush a bit smaller. Alright, try and be as accurate as possible, and you should get a pretty decent result at the end. Make the brush a bit bigger, just to speed it up a little bit. You can also middle mouse click to move the canvas, yeah? So you can hold down the middle mouse button, and if you want to move down the canvas, like here I want to move down, just hold down middle mouse and drag up, and that allows you to move down the canvas as well. If you zoom out, you can see we're just painting a white silhouette, right? It's looking pretty good so far, it's not too bad. And the more you zoom, sometimes you don't have to really adjust the size of the brush. If you zoom in quite close, kind of adjust the size like that, and it just makes life a little bit easier. If you can zoom quite close, and then that brush is still really the same size, but you're zoomed in quite close, so it's just easier to use. Let's see. Normally when I'm doing this, I'll be quite close in like this, so when I'm doing the selection around the edge, it'll be a lot more accurate. I'm doing this a bit, you know, I'm not spending too much effort into it, but you get the idea that, you know, the closer you are, the better that selection will be. So it's your choice. You can either zoom in quite close, or you can do it from a distance, but it won't be as accurate. When you're in close like this, you can get right to the edge and you know that your selection is going to be pretty good. It just saves you time later having to refine it. So it's up to you. You can do it from a distance and it will be not as good as doing it quite close up like this. It'll be a bit better. Let's just zoom out and see what's going on here. So this is his hand, right? Alright, let's do this bit here. If you hear me go silent, it's because I'm concentrating. You know, go and put some music on while I'm doing this if you like, or skip forward. It's up to you. Okay, I'm getting there. So we're not too far from the end. And you know, the more time we spend going around this edge, the better it's going to be for our selection. So that's why I'm taking my time. Normally I'll take a bit longer, to be fair, but I'm just trying to do this at a sensible pace, but not too long, so I don't bore you too much. But you know, there's a thing called fast forward on Google, on YouTube, so use it if you're, you know, you don't want to watch me do this. I don't blame you. So we should have a pretty decent selection. You can always go back around and refine this stuff and just clean it all up where you think it's not quite right. But overall, you know, we've got a basic selection here. Let's just zoom out here. You can see like around here we need to fix it a little bit, and around here as well. So let's just do this. Do something like this. we've got a good silhouette there, right? It's been cut out, a good silhouette. So we can use that now as a layer mask. So let's give that a go. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on this top layer, right? So this is the one that we painted white. And let's go ahead and select edit and copy. So let's copy that. In fact, we should save our work, right? It would be wise because we've done quite a bit of work here. So let's just call this layer mask, layer mask, and then click save. And we've copied this top layer, so go to edit, copy. Let's click the move tool. That should be really the tool that you want to use, right? So leave it as default move tool. We'll click this, we've copied it. Let's right click on this layer here. In fact, we should duplicate this layer. Let's just make a copy of it. So let's just here, duplicate. So we've got 2 copies. You can click this button to duplicate. Hide the bottom one and click on this middle one. Right click on it and go to add layer mask here. And select black full transparency here, black full transparency, and click add, and then go to edit and paste in place, and then click the green anchor icon. Now you can hide the top layer and you've got a pretty good selection, right? A pretty good one. Now you can click on this layer mask. You can see like there's this green in this background. So really in this layer mask we're saying to GIMP anything that is white we want to keep, but because this image contains some color in the top, like some lighter colors, is keeping those colors. We don't really want those, so we've got 2 options. Either we can use the erase tool and erase from the original image, or we can go to the paintbrush tool, and before it was set to white. So white is everything we're going to keep. So if we set the other option, the one below, let's say this one here, if we just click this button to switch it and set it to black, and then we can take our paintbrush tool and we can take something like not a hard edge, but something like a fuzzy edge, like this brush here, and we can paint onto the layer mask. So make sure the layer mask is selected here, and you can just paint away anything that you don't want to keep, right? So all of this stuff here we can just paint it away. Shouldn't take too long just to paint around there. And down here you can see like there's a bit of dirt and stuff, so maybe we'll keep that, or we can get rid of that afterwards. But what I normally do is zoom right in. Right, zoom quite close in. It's also worth maybe adding a background. So let's just click here. Let's just create a new layer. Click OK. So we've got this new layer here. And let's set that to something quite strong. So let's just switch the colors and we'll set it to, we don't want red. Let's set it to like a yellow color, right? Something that will stand out. Click OK. We've got that background layer selected, or that empty layer. And we'll go to the paint bucket and just click in the canvas. And now everything's yellow. Now you can see where you've got to kind of tidy up things a little bit in your layer mask just by painting black. So this shouldn't take too long. So let's do this. Let's click on the layer mask, switch this back over, click on the paintbrush tool. We could probably click this fuzzy brush here, and let's click on the layer mask. Let's make that brush much bigger, right? So we can just go in here and just clean up all of this stuff here in the background. And with this particular brush you can get quite close in without really sort of affecting the pixels, right? Around the hand and around the hat you can get quite close in here, and it shouldn't affect them too much, but you're going to probably have to zoom in a little bit to tidy it up as well. But we can do most of this pretty quick, and the mask itself wasn't too bad, right? So we're just tidying up our mask, because inside of we can get rid of all of this if we don't really want this dirt down here. We can go in there and clean up a bit more accurately. We might keep a little, in fact I don't mind the dirt down at the bottom, I kind of like it there. But let's zoom in here. Just hold down the control key and zoom right in to roughly around here, right? We can just start to, in effect what we're doing is we're painting black onto the layer mask. That's what we're doing. We're painting the black color on this layer mask, yeah? And the black is transparent, right? It's not going to show anything. It's just transparent. We're telling GIMP that we want that to be transparent. So there's a few different ways that we could have approached this. We could have kind of made the background black first of all, but I kind of like doing it this way because it's a bit more accurate, but it takes a bit longer, this route, but I think it's better. You've got more manipulation. So even if you did something like let's just say you painted in here, right, by accident, you can just switch to white, switch it to a white color, the paintbrush, and when you paint, you'll paint back in that piece of content. So black will remove, white will keep, right? So when we switch to black, if you paint, let's switch to black. If you paint on the nose, you can see it's transparent, so it's showing the yellow color behind. We're painting onto this layer mask. If we switch it over, we can just paint that back in like so. So let's switch back to the black. Let's get in here, and we could even use a more fuzzy select, right? A better fuzzy select, like the next brush down, and that will just allow us to go around this edging quite quickly, but not really manipulate any of the pixels. Just allows you to get really close to the edge without affecting the pixels on the stuff that you want to keep, like this Mario figure, right? So you can go around here, like this, and again, this is down to the amount of time that you want to put into it. So you put more time, you'll get a better end result, and we're all about getting the best result possible, so we'll spend the time to do the job right. And it doesn't matter if this is a picture of whatever, it can be anything, right? It can be a car, can be a photograph of yourself, can be anything you like. And I'm quite picky, right? So I will actually bother to do this properly, then just rush through it. I've seen quite a few tutorials and they just kind of breeze through things and they don't really explain too much, and I don't really like that because you don't learn from it. All you do is just figure out a robotic process, but you're not actually understanding what's going on. So we're painting, although you don't see black, we're actually painting black into the layer mask. Yeah, that's actually what we're doing. We're painting black in the layer mask, and black was full transparency. White is to keep all the content, right? White will keep content, black will get rid of it. We can do this a bit quicker. In theory, we could make the brush a bit bigger, right? And we could do like a larger part a bit quicker. So do it like this. I'm sure there are other ways to do this. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. Obviously, I've shown you quite a few different ways to remove backgrounds today. But if anyone's got any tips, like if you're watching this video and you're like a GIMP genius, you know, with your software, and you've got any useful tips, put them into the commenting, please, right? If you can help me or anyone else with this sort of technique, maybe you know a better way to do this or a more accurate way, then by all means share your knowledge. We're all here to learn, so feel free to do that, and we'll much appreciate it. I think we're going to get a pretty good result from this. I'm rushing it a little bit, to be fair, but I know you're pretty bored by now, I'm sure, but hey, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. I think we're almost done. I don't think there's much here. A lot of the problems were at the top here, right? You can see, but it's not bad at all. Let's just zoom in here. Let's get rid of this down here, and so we can improve the top of this hat as well. So we could zoom in and just try and get rid of this black line here. Kind of see this black line. Let's try and get rid of some of that. Especially here, it's quite dark here. It's not too bad here. That's it. That's what image editing is. Unfortunately, it takes time. I'll be honest with you, in Photoshop we could have done this a lot quicker, but I do like a bit of free software, you know. It never hurts. I think the next version of GIMP is going to be pretty awesome. I know they've been working on it for a very long time, So, you know, this is GIMP is the free choice for image editing if you don't have Photoshop. I think this is really the best tool out there. Obviously Photoshop's better, but GIMP is pretty good as well if you know how to use it. By no means am I a graphic design expert. I'm more about web design. That's kind of my game. But you can't be a web designer if you can't do graphic design. You know, it just don't work. So, although I do have a very talented graphic designer on my team, and he's an absolute genius. So, yeah, I think we're almost done. Keep saying that, don't I? Let's zoom in here. We picked this yellow color because we can kind of see where all our problems are in terms of the image. In theory, we could have really done the black and white separately, but I don't think that's a smart. I've seen other tutorials where they paint everything white and then do the background after black and then they apply the layer mask. For me, that's kind of a long-winded way, because I'm only interested in what needs to be removed, right? I don't want to have to paint the whole thing twice over. It just kind of doesn't make sense to me. But there we go. If we want to get rid of this, these little pebbles and stuff, we could do that. I kind of like them there, but we could, in theory, right-click. Let's see, duplicate layer. So we could create a copy of this, right? This so far what we've done. In fact, let's undo that. Let's just see. We've still got a bit to do around this hand here. Let's just finish this off before we duplicate it. There's no point in duplicating something that isn't right. Right, and this particular brush is good for fixing those sort of issues. It's like a very soft brush, right? So it's quick to go around edging and not affect the pixels too much. You don't want to do this. Okay, I'm just rushing a bit here, making mistakes. Let's stop that. So where should we put this, Mr. Mario? Or what picture should we put in the background? That's the key question, right? So we'll work that out in a minute. But I think we're good. Sometimes it's worth clicking on this layer, go back to the paint bucket, and switch it to a different color, like maybe what we've got yellow here. Let's switch it to green, and then paint bucket green. And let's see, undo that. Let's click here. In fact, let's click create a new layer, and then paint bucket green. Why is it doing that? Okay, it's because it's black, that's why. Let's set it to green, then paint bucket. You can, when you apply different colors, sometimes you see other problems that you don't see necessarily with yellow, but that looks pretty good. But we can see, like, maybe here we could fix it a bit. But let's just go back to our paintbrush, click on the layer mask, and we can just set it to black again. And we can just tidy this up here a little bit, maybe like this. And then on this side, we can kind of just fade it out here like this, so it's not kind of sitting flat to the edge, right? We don't really want that. Maybe something like this, at an angle, and like this. I think we're good. Kind of like the ground there, but I'm going to remove it, show you how to do that. So we want to keep one with the ground. Let's just save this, and then we can just click on this layer, right click, duplicate it. Let's duplicate. Now we've got two versions of that. We can hide this version and click on the top one, click on the layer mask. Then we can zoom into this foot, and like all of this stuff, if you don't want it, you can always get rid of it. Just be careful here. Let's just do this right. When you rush it, you tend to make mistakes, and then you just end up having to undo it anyway. So you know, take it, or you know, the bulk of it you can probably do quite quick. Just get rid of most of what you don't want, and then when you get to the edge you want to be a bit more accurate. Let's zoom right in. And you might want to make this brush a bit harder, right? Because with this here, we're going to have to almost like carve that the shape of the foot. Because a lot of pixelation in here, that just doesn't look quite right. So I don't think it'll be too bad when you zoom out, but like around here, you're going to have to go in with a harder brush just to get that rounded edge there. You have to actually make that yourself. Let's see on this side. Set it to a hard round, just 100% hard. Then you've got to be very careful, very accurate with your brush. Not sure how that looks, that's not too bad. Okay, to be fair, we could have spent a bit more time on this, but I think that's okay. That's not too bad. So now we've got kind of that ground removed, right? Let's zoom out. Let's save this work. Let's go to File, Save. And now we just need to put Mr. Mario somewhere else, right? So let's just double check. Let's just go back to our browser and let's think about this. What should we put him in? Let's put him in a coffee shop. Italians like coffee, right? So let's grab this picture. Let's download it. Minimize this. Let's drag that into here. I just want to test something. I'm not quite sure. I'm pretty sure it should work, but let's go to this picture. Where is this one? We'll open it. So we've got the picture here. Let's create a new layer. Transparency. Set it to transparency. Click OK. And then let's go back to here. Let's copy this one. So I'm going to click on this layer. Let's click on it. Let's press Edit, Copy, and then go over to here and let's just press Edit. And let's go to Edit, Paste, or Control V. Edit, Paste. So we can see that we don't really have the layer mask, right? So I'm not sure if we can paste copy and paste layer mask across, but we might have to reapply the layer mask. So let's test it first. Let's anchor it down. So we've got the image there. Then let's click on the layer mask itself. I'm pretty sure we should be able to copy the layer mask. Let's go to Edit, Copy. Let's go back here. Let's go to Add Layer Mask. Add it, and then press Control V. And then click Anchor. And now we've got it with the transparency. You have to copy the image and then copy the layer mask separately across when you move it to a new image. And if we click on the image itself, let's try and scale it. Right, so we can scale it right down. It's me, Mr. Mario. Let's put him on this table, like around here. I think so. Yeah, that looks good. Let's save it. Oh, let's accept that. And then we've got Mr. Mario here, standing on the table in the coffee shop, ordering his coffee. Happy days. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's save it as an example. Save as, and we'll click here. And let's do an example. Save it. We can close that, and we can go to File, Save. Remember, always keep your original artwork and move your content to a new document when you want to copy and paste it across, that way you always retain your best quality image, the best resolution, the highest quality is what you want to keep, right? And you can then just copy and move that across. So let's close this down. Let's close down GIMP and we'll go back a directory. So we went through 7, I know this was quite a long tutorial, but I showed you 7 different ways to create or remove backgrounds from pictures using different selection tools in GIMP. I don't think anyone's done all 7 selection tools, so maybe this is a first on YouTube. Hopefully it is, maybe it's not, I don't know. But hopefully you've learned a lot from this, right? So we looked at using circle selection to remove a picture or remove content from this ball image. So we use circle, right? So sometimes you've got to think about what you're doing when you're using any type of graphic design software. There's typically a sensible tool to use for the purpose or the objective or the logic that you want to try and achieve, right? So a rounded selection tool makes sense for a ball. I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but sometimes we don't think about that. Foreground select, we use that to manipulate this picture, right? So we use the foreground select to remove the background from here, and then we applied it to this particular picture here, if you remember. And then we used the fuzzy select tool. That was this picture here. We used that fuzzy select because the background was quite a simple color, and that's where fuzzy select tool works pretty well. So that's a good example of that. We did the layer mask just now, and that was Mario, right? So we cut around Mario, or we cropped him out first. Then we painted white what we wanted to keep, and then we went into the layer mask, and then we painted black to just get rid of some artifacts, and then we moved that and placed it on this picture. Then we did path select. That was for the bird. Do you remember? We used the path select. That was quite a long process, but that allows us to get quite a good accurate selection and place that bird onto the tree. So that's a different tool. Then we use select by color. I don't really use this tool very often, but if you just got flat colors in the artwork and you just want to change the color or something quite quickly, then you could use the circle select tool or the ellipse tool to select these circles. But using the select by color was able to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 circles all at the same time, right? That's why that tool is pretty good. And then the square selection tool was nice and simple. When you want to select out an object, not necessarily a square, but a rectangle. It could have been this picture, any of these pictures, right? Anything that's flat, rectangles type shape, you can use that tool to do the selection. We place that on top of this image. Okay, so let's close this down. I think I've done enough talking for today. Hopefully you find this tutorial quite useful. There's different techniques, and each technique is dealing with a different type of picture. So remember that you need to think about the type of image that you want to remove the background from first, and then once you understand these different tools and how they work, you can pick the right tool to perform that background removal using GIMP. Okay, that's the end of this tutorial. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel. You can find over 600 free video tutorials on a wide range of subjects, not just GIMP, Photoshop, Excel spreadsheets, 3D animation, web development, loads of different things there. It's just me sharing a lot of my knowledge. So please check out my channel and give this video a thumbs up. If you need any help with GIMP, don't forget that you can comment in the video. So just write a comment and I'll try and help you. I've done quite a lot of tutorials, so I'll probably have something there that I can share with you to help you as well. Okay, don't forget to subscribe. That's the end of this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.